Okay, so this is part 2 of your retro car collage, and this is kind of a big step. So you're going to be drawing, outlining, coloring, and cutting out your retro car. So I already have mine cut out right here, but we're going to go through the steps. So really the first part of this section is drawing your retro car. And why would I want you to maybe draw a brand new car and not use the same drawings that you made last week? Yeah, if you're thinking to get more practice and to make it better, then you're right. If you use the same drawings that you used last week, whether that's the bus or the Cadillac, then you're not really getting enough practice with using contour line that we've been talking about and following the directions. So for this week, I do not want you to reuse the same drawing that you did last week. You are going to draw a brand new car on a piece of paper. So all the directions for how to draw the Cadillac or the bus are in the Nearpod. They are the videos that you saw last week, so you're going to rewatch those as much as you need and follow directions between drawing it in pencil, outlining it in Sharpie, erasing those pencil lines so it's nice and clean, coloring it with the colored pencils. Remember leaving some white space so it looks shiny on the body of the car. And then once you have your car drawn out, you're ready to cut it out. I'd also say when you are drawing it, you want your car to be a little bit bigger. You do not want a small car this big because your collage is going to be probably a little bit bigger, and if you have a small car, it's going to look tiny on this background. So when you're drawing it, I would say try to draw a rectangle, right? If you're drawing the Cadillac, draw it a little bit bigger, and don't be afraid to go bigger instead of drawing teeny tiny. If you start drawing a car this small, that's going to be too small on your final collage. So make sure it gets bigger. Okay, so let's say that I have drawn my car again, and now I'm ready to cut it out. So if you look right here, this one that I drew this week, my new car, has a little bit of a white border. And I want to leave a little bit of a white border because sometimes if we get too close with our scissors to the very edge of a drawing, we end up accidentally like cutting some of the parts off. So I'm going to show you how to just carefully cut it out, leaving a little bit of a white border. You can always just kind of make a rough cut around so you can get closer in. Just get rid of some of that extra paper, like that. So then you have something easier to work with. So when I'm cutting, I always cut away from me. I use the back of my scissors, not the tip, because the back are stronger and they don't make hairy lines like that. So that's what a hairy line looks like using scissors. And I want nice and clean lines like that. All right, so as I'm cutting my border, I'm going to be turning my paper. The more that I turn my paper, instead of trying to angle in a weird, awkward angle, the cleaner lines I'll get, the less hairy lines I'll get with my scissors. Notice as I'm turning my paper, going around the light, being careful not to cut it off. Turning. All right. And you want to be careful during this part because you really don't want to cut off anything that you worked so hard on to draw, outline, color. You spent a lot of time on this part, so you really want to be careful. All right, so I check, looks good. If there's any part that's maybe too thick, I can always just come over and just kind of trim it off like that, and I'm good to go. All right, I'm gonna hold on to this car. I'm not gluing it immediately and pasting it. I'm not ready to glue this on yet because we'll have to make the sunset background now. Okay, so my car is cut out, that's ready to go. Now I need white paper and my circle tracer. If you're using a bowl, you can turn it upside down so you can kind of trace this circle and not the smaller circle. So I'm going to trace it or put it upside down and literally anywhere on the paper. Just make sure it's not going off the page. You want it completely on the paper. And what we're doing is we're starting to make our sunset background. This is going to be the main part of this week's collage. So with one hand I hold the bowl, and with the other hand with a pencil I trace around, making sure the bowl doesn't slip and make my lines messy. Trace around. And I don't need my bowl anymore. Make sure you clean it because it's going to have some pencil on it. So now I have a circle. And I'm actually going to trace it a little bit darker so you guys can see better. So let's make it a little darker just for you guys. And all right, that's good. All right, so I have my circle traced out, and this is what I'm going to be cutting out and making my sunset on. So now I need my markers. So I'm going to use magenta, blend it into pink, blend it into yellow. Just like a sunset that's going down in the sky. If you don't have magenta, you can use you can use red. You could do red to pink to yellow, or even red, orange, yellow, just all warm colors. For the sunset, don't use cool colors because we don't see cool colors in the sky at sunset. We see warm colors. So red, orange, yellow, magenta, pink, those kind of colors. All right. So I'm going to start with the magenta, and I want it to take up about like a third of the circle. I don't want to go so far up that this thing is all magenta. I want to leave some space for pink and some space for yellow. So when I'm using markers, I don't want to get rid or lose my cap. I want to take it off and put it on the end of my marker so it doesn't roll off my table. So when you're using a marker, you can use it like this with the tip to make a straight, thin line, or you can use that edge where it's angled in to make a thick line. So this is the same marker, it just made two different lines. And I want to use the edge of my marker, the thick part, to make my lines because that will fill my space up faster. Okay, so not putting too much pressure on, I'm going to just make horizontal lines, just like this, and it's okay if there's some white space coming through. And I'm just gonna go up, 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 like that. That's as far as I wanna go. Notice that I went outside my circle. That's okay because we're gonna cut out along that circle and you won't see it going out of the lines. Then I want my pink. Put the cap on, and when I'm using my pink, I want to overlap it a little bit into this magenta so that they are starting to blend. I want my colors not to just be separate stripes. I want them to actually blend. So I'm going to bring the pink on top of the magenta so I now have kind of a mix of magenta and pink. I'm using horizontal lines instead of just coloring it every which way or vertically because sunsets are kind of horizontal on a horizon. So that's left to right, left to right, left to right. I'm going to bring it up. I'm also making my marker a little bit lighter. I'm not putting as much pressure the more I go up because I want that yellow to be able to blend in with it. All right, put the cap on. Last but not least, let's use yellow. All right, starting at the top, I'm going to bring it down. Again, I'm going outside my lines, but that doesn't matter because I'm going to cut that part out. And I love the way the yellow blends with the pink. It almost makes like an orange. And I'm going to bring that yellow down even more, maybe even into the magenta to really blend all my colors together. I really like it. It looks really pretty. Let's bring the magenta a little bit more in. Just a second layer. Just barely a little bit. A little bit more pink. All right, and that is my sunset background. So I put my bowl on my paper, I traced it with pencil, then I got my 3 warm colors, that can be red or magenta, pink, yellow, orange. Just make sure it's going dark to light. Don't put yellow at the bottom, put yellow at the top. And then your medium color in the middle, darkest color at the bottom. So it kind of fades up, just like a real sunset. All right, y'all, so this is the end of step 2, where we cut out our collage. I'm sorry, where we cut out our car. And then step 3, which is making our sunset by blending our marker colors. And now we are ready for step 4.